Rise. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to have a moment of silence to recall Mary Beth Damon, whose niece is a director of, what is her title, Richard?
Office manager.
Cassandra Green is the office manager for the clerk's office. I'm sorry, I forgot her title. Also, the sister of a police officer, Peter Finnegan, and sister of a former city councilor and state representative, Kevin Finnegan. Just a moment to remember Mary Beth, please. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Roll call for the meeting of June 24th. Councilor O'Brien.
Here.
Councilor Shan.
Present.
Councilor Tantar.
Here.
Councilor Vogel.
Present.
Councilor Zede. Councilor Devlin.
Here.
Councilor Earl.
Present.
Councilor Agaman.
Here.
Councilor Junda is absent. Councilor Khan is absent. Councilor Khan.
Present.
We have 2 absent, 9 present. We have a quorum.
And we have the late file items.
Councils will see on their desk, there are 3 official late file items. One is an appointment 112, another is an appointment 113. First one is to become a member of the Historic Commission. Second is to become a member of the Planning Board. And then there's a communication 164 late file, which is a letter to Councilor of Ward 2 from an Eric Goodness. There's also 2 information sheets on your desk, one from Andy Port with respect to Ordinance 30, the other from Andy Port with respect to Order 123. And those are the late items.
Motion to waive the rules and accept the late file items.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
1 no. Do you have any votes? I don't have any more.
We have the covers to these two.
We'll do that. Public comment period. Okay, first up will be Mr. Glenn Richards. And it's customary for people to identify themselves and their home address, please.
Sure. Glenn Richards, 6 Kent Street, Newburyport. Good evening to you all. I'm here to just speak briefly on behalf of one of these late files you just accepted, Patricia Pecknick, for the Historical Commission. I'm the chair of the commission. And all I would say is that I've met and discussed and talked with Patricia extensively, and even if we weren't very anxious to fill out the committee, I think she'd make a tremendous and really good asset on the committee, or the commission, I should say. And I hope you will consider her nomination and accept it in due course. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Glenn. Patricia Pecknick.
Pecknick, 4 Dove Street, and I am seeking your approval of my appointment to the Historical Commission. I'm a professor of American history. I used to teach at the Boston Architectural College, and I now teach U.S. history, including legal history, at Berklee College of Music, where they are quite obsessed with copyright. I would like to make a brief statement about my approach to historic preservation, if time permits. I'll be very brief. What I can bring to the commission fits best under what the Secretary of the Interior's standards and guidelines calls assembling the existing information about the historic context. Partly because I'm very research-driven, partly because for historians, those contexts are not merely architectural, aesthetic contexts about spatial relationships and fabric and scale, but also sociological and narrative contexts. Buildings do tell stories about ideas. My understanding is that to comport with the NHC's mission, everyone involved in reviewing any proposal about any historic property has to be looking at rehabilitation or restoration or construction plans from 3 vantage points. Of course, from the perspective of the property owner and the abutters, from the perspective of the whole community, as that is the site, but especially from my perspective, from the perspective that the buildings are exceedingly rare in this country and are part of our national heritage. So there are many stakeholders, property owners looking at drawings, neighbors looking at construction or destruction or reproduction of historical elements, us looking at a building from 500 feet away, people 50 years from now looking at the building from that perspective. I think it's very exciting. As an historian, I'm used to first micro-focusing on small details, data, facts, charts, graphs, and then trying to get the very broad aerial view, developing maybe a more philosophical view, and thinking in the space in between that. So that's what I would bring to the NHC if my application warrants your favor, and I thank you very much for considering it.
Wow, thank you very much.
Great resume, I'll say that.
Wow.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
And if you need instruction in French, I think we know who can help. Elizabeth Harris.
Hello, Elizabeth Harris, 56 Lime Street. Councilors, please be very cautious about approving emergency appointments for 2 people to the NRA, and possibly for approving litigation against the NRA. Why now, and why the rush now? Your lobbyist lawyer, perhaps, was not very persuasive to the mayor's cause at the last meeting of the NRA. Perhaps because he said he hoped the NRA would vote to give half the submerged lands to the Waterfront Trust, because then he would make a lot of money. He said that. Many of us wonder why the City Council approved Order 24 without a public hearing. Perhaps councilors believed all the whereas clauses made the order palatable, but did attorneys for the city tell you the whereas clauses had little or no legal effect? In any case, they were wiped out of the order when it went before the legislature. Councilors do not trust what the mayor or others have proposed when it comes to the waterfront. No public hearings, emergency appointments, litigation with the NRA, and why the rush? Is this power grab of what was to have been a park in reality to be a site for favorite projects of the mayor's office, like the shacks on parkland? Councilors, please don't trust the mayor when it comes to the waterfront park and the docking rights, and don't trust her attorneys. They certainly misled you in 2015 when they said the lease of submerged lands to the Waterfront Trust was invalid because the City Council never approved it. It was a valid lease. The council didn't need to approve it. No city land was involved. Perhaps as a result of this poor legal advice, the city illegally diverted fees due to the Waterfront Trust, stole them, almost $500,000 from a charitable trust. Shame. This is the tragedy of the Commons, the tragedy of the Newburyport Commons. Don't let the mayor rush you into decisions that will return to haunt you and destroy what was to have been a beautiful central waterfront park. Thank you.
Thank you. Walt Thompson.
This is what I drink instead of water these days, vinegar. Vinegar, gotta have vinegar. Thank you, Council President Barry Connell, for the time this evening, for joining with Councilor Greg Earls in sponsoring this proposed ban on the use of Roundup
Can you please identify
glyphosate.
yourself, because not everyone knows who you are. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Walt Thompson, 100 State Street, Newburyport.
Thank you, Walt.
Let me go start over? No, okay. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Holliday, for the support of your parks, DPS, and health departments. Thank you, Kevin, Alexis, Marcia, Andrea, Bonnie, Doreen, Aaron, Jeanette, Dr. Dan, Alan, and others. And last but not least, my wife of 50 years, Carol. Thank you all for a beautiful city filled with folks who care about each other. One of the things on the agenda tonight is the banning of Roundup glyphosate only on city land. And brought this along as a little reminder that we could all benefit by using vinegar and not the other items. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you all. Take a swig. Bonnie Sontag.
Bonnie Sontag, 10 Upland Road, and Chair of the Newburyport Planning Board. I'm here to encourage you to approve the nomination of a candidate to fill a vacancy on the Planning Board, Elizabeth Delisle. She is a land use and environmental specialist attorney. While I don't expect her, and neither does the whole board, expect her to be able to answer all the legal issues that come up before us, we do expect that she'll be able to help us to ask the right questions and to help us find where those answers might be. So I'm looking forward to hearing that when its time arrives, that you have approved her appointment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Patty Moore.
My name is Patty Moore, 67 Curzon Mill Road, for those of you who don't know me. As you know, I served as Mayor Holliday's Chief of Staff several years ago. I'm here on behalf of the possible appointment to the NRA. I'm very familiar with the objectives of the waterfront. I was very much involved with that when I worked with the mayor, and I would be happy to serve on that board to help with the objectives of the waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Janice Cernick. I'm sorry, it could be Chris.
What? Bill Smith, could be Chris.
It is Chris.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Chris Cernick, 32 Water Street, Unit 7. I'm here to ask that you approve of an appointment by the mayor that I be on the Council of Aging Board. I bring to that board a wide experience. I have been an historian. I have been the executive director of an organization not in town. I have been a psychotherapist in Newburyport for over 20 years. I have worked with the homeless. I have also gotten a master's degree in women's history. I'm very engaged with the Time Trade Network of Newburyport, of Greater Newburyport, and also with Storm Surge, having been one of the founders. I think what I bring to the Council on Aging Board would be my mental health background. There really isn't anyone on that board other than Roseanne who brings that kind of a skill. The other thing is that I am on the younger tier of being an elder rather than the older tier. So there's a wonderful integration that's happening on the board right now with elders. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions.
Not tonight.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Andrew Sirocco.
Hello, it's Andrew Sirocco, 33 Middle Street. I am here to encourage you to appoint me to the Tree Commission. I have sort of been recruited for this position, specifically for help with the educational side, to try and get use of trees in the schools. I'm a teacher, science teacher at the River Valley Charter School, and I use trees in my classroom all the time, and I just had some ideas that maybe the Tree Commission could use, and here I am.
Wonderful.
I also have been planting trees with my sister and with Green Jeans for about 10 years, so I've planted a lot of trees in the city myself. I think I had 43 last year.
Wow.
So I hope you appoint me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Elizabeth Delisle.
Hi, Elizabeth Delisle, 50 Woodland Street. I'm here as the potential nominee for the planning board. I am a land use and environmental attorney, graduated from law school in 2003. I spent 2003 to 2012 working at Foley Hoag in Boston as an environmental attorney, and since 2013 I've been practicing with Jeff Roloffs, doing a combination of environmental and land use law. So I feel like I have a strong legal background that I can bring to help the planning board, and I hope that you will approve my nominee. I understand that I'm to meet with the Planning and Development Commission, so I'm happy to answer any questions now or then.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Dan Iyek.
Hi, councilors. Dan Iyek, 36R Spofford Street. I'm just here to support the ordinance against Roundup and glyphosate because the damages that are being proposed in the courts are quite obvious that that we need to look at that. And I'd encourage you to encourage the Department of Health to go and survey the folks who have had a lot of exposure working for the city and to push for a measurement of those people so we get ahead of that so we don't find ourselves in a legal battle someday over cancer in our own folks. And so I think we need to look at it closer and urge you to push forward on the ordinance. I really appreciate it. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Pam Ketchum.
Hello. Pam Ketchum, 15 Washington Street. Feels a bit like Groundhog Day. I'm concerned once again by the rush. This seems to happen all too frequently. I believe any time things are done too quickly, without the proper time to be vetted and discussed, things are missed and mistakes are made. There should be the opportunity to review facts, hear options and opinions so that good decisions can be made. I urge you to take the time for all of you and the public to have an opportunity to hear about the proposed candidates for the NRA and understand why it is being proposed to make changes to the group. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that is it. Thank you for all of your testimony, and for those of you who are volunteering to serve. I think I know what's going to happen next, but we'll see. Mayor's comment.
Thank you. President Call, members of the City Council. I don't have a formal update for you tonight. You have a heavy agenda and executive session. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about what's happening with the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority. As you're all aware, we're on the third reading of the Home Rule petition at the legislature. Both the Waterfront Trust and the Newburyport Redevelopment received letters from Attorney Richard Lyman requesting that they honor the notice that they have received regarding the home rule petition that has been filed with the legislature. The next vote would be an engrossment, then signed by Governor Baker. We are so close to having that home rule petition approved. The home rule petition includes, as you know, everything that we have wanted to accomplish on the waterfront. No buildings, protecting open space, in perpetuity, being able to build the park that the citizens of Newburyport have consistently said they wanted. And unfortunately, last week, the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority, against the request of our legal counsel, transferred the filled tidelands at this point. The meeting was not posted properly in terms of the agenda. They did not follow procurement laws, and they also, again, transferred this property without proper notice and against what we're trying to accomplish. The reason that we're at this point is because, as you know, after your ad hoc committee review and consensus document and the many, many months that are the group that met on the Waterfront Trust documents, we wound up with, after going line by line, word by word, to revise the waterfront trust docs, at the very end of that whole process, I was handed a one-page amendment, which basically put the city in worse shape than it is in today. You can hear all kinds of background dialogue about all this, that, and the other thing in terms of, but we have put a home rule petition together based on the consensus plan, based on what the residents of Newburyport want, and we cannot afford for the NRA to continue to meet and continue to transfer lands against the wishes of what we're trying to accomplish. We know the Waterfront Trust has said they don't want all of the property. They don't have the funds, and they're not in a position as a trust to be able to apply for federal and state funds to build the park, which we have said we do, and then we would, once we build the park, then work with the Waterfront Trust about who and divvying up the property on the waterfront. In the meantime, this is the plan that we have put forward, and the NRA just sidetracked it last week, and so therefore I'm asking so that we can prevent this kind of rogue and inappropriate posting work that happens, that you approve the two appointments before you tonight as an emergency so that we cannot see more of the land given away. Patty Moore and Dave Tibbetts, you have their resumes. They are well-known in the city and will respect the wishes of the city council, the mayor, and the home rule petition in terms of moving this forward. So I ask for your support on those two emergency appointments this evening. And then once we go into executive session, we will have further conversation about our legal strategy and addressing these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. The clerk will walk us through the consent agenda, please.
The consent agenda this evening consists of the approval of the minutes for June 10th. There are no transfers. There are 3 communications, all to be referred to public safety. Communication 161, Lafayette Street Block Party, 8/17/2019. Communication 162, the Geiger Walk Against Domestic Violence, October 6th. And Communication 163, High Street Mile, to be held August 4th. There are the following appointments. Appointment 105, Chris Cernick, 32 Water Street, Unit 7, to the Council on Aging until 5/31/2024. Appointment 106, Andrew Sirocco, 33 Middle Street, as an alternate to the Tree Commission until 7/1/2022. Following reappointments, Jennifer Groskin, 11 Myrtle Ave, Human Rights Commission until 7/1/2022. And Sheila Treef, 11 Shandell Drive, Human Rights Commission until 7/1/2022. To be referred to Planning and Development Committee, appointment 111, David Vine, 47 Marlborough Street, to the Conservation Commission until 5/31/2022. The following items, once recited, will be removed automatically from their respective committee, which is Budget and Finance. Transfer 48, Order 106, Transfer 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. Orders 114, 120, 121, and 122. And that is the consent agenda this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's done. That's the end of the consent agenda. Let's start with the regular agenda, please. We had the mayor's update. We've heard that there's nothing written, so there's nothing to act on there. Transfers.
First transfer is 61. It's an emergency preamble. An emergency exists due to the fact that transfer 61, a transfer from the general fund school budget to the school lunch revolving fund, is time sensitive, as the city auditor, director of finance, must close the fiscal year on June 30th of this year. Therefore, City Council affirmatively declares an emergency exists. Submitted, Councilor Tontar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councilor Tontar.
Yes, Mr. President, this is coming to us late. I think the school department was waiting for their last invoices to come in to see if they would need a transfer. They do need a transfer. The transfer, it's an emergency because this is our last meeting of the fiscal year, so we had to get this done.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the councilors? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, Richard.
Transfer itself, which is transfer 61, $35,000 from school expenses to the same amount, school lunch.
Is there a motion? There's a motion from Councilor Tantar to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, just very quickly, you'll note the end of the fiscal year last year, there was a $13,587 deficit. This year, there's an additional $9,000 or so in deficit. With this transfer of $35,000, they'll be carrying a surplus of about $12,000, which should be sufficient to start the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Councilor. Questions, comments from the councilors? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item, please.
Similarly, transfer 62, it's emergency preamble, exists due to the fact that the matter references a transfer from paid parking fund to the parking operating budget, time sensitive, as the city auditor, director of finance must close the fiscal year June 30th of this year. Submitted, Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve.
Second. And seconded by Councilor Vogel. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done. Next.
Transfer itself, transfer 62, paid parking fund, $25,000 to credit card fees, same amount.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilor Devlin. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. They're done. Appointments?
Mr. President, I think next we would have the late file communication 164, which is a letter, it's a 9-page letter to the Councilor in Ward 2 from Eric Goodness, 189 High Street.
Councilor Devlin.
I haven't seen this, so I don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was, but I heard the name and now the address, so I'm going to recuse myself.
So noted.
Thank you. I believe all the councilors received a copy of this communication on their desks when they came in, or was distributed while you were seated. Is there a motion?
Motion to refer to Committee on Planning and Development.
Moved and seconded to move to Planning and Development. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's done. Would someone, Ethan, would you mind getting Councilor Devlin, please? Okay, what's next?
Next would be a second reading of appointment of Sheila Tainter, 10 Dexter Street, to the Tree Commission until 4/1/2022.
Motion to approve on second reading?
Second.
Moved and approved on second reading. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on this appointment.
Roll call, Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes. Great enthusiasm. First reading appointments.
Next, we have an emergency preamble. It reads as follows. Emergency exists due to the fact that the appointment of Patricia Moore to the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority is time-sensitive due to the pending home rule petition in the Massachusetts legislature relating to the dissolution of the authority. Therefore, the council hereby affirmatively declares that an emergency exists such that Rule 12A be waived and Appointment 108 be voted upon in its first introduction. Submitted, Councilor Connell.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion. Councilor Agaman.
I'm not the sponsor, but I'm going to speak on this one. I did speak down at the State House earlier on this home rule petition. So here's why I think we need to do this. First, though, I want to address, not the law, but just ultimately what's going to happen to this land, which is it's going to be a park. So to comfort people and myself and my colleagues, you know, our May 30th, 2017 resolution has never been changed. And it says that the land will go to the Waterfront Trust for public park and waterside uses, except for the firehouse patio, which the city was going to lease, and the custom house land, which the city was going to lease. What's happened, though, is the NRA has not really gone with our game plan. And we talked at length about why we felt we had to dissolve the NRA, and that's in process. I guess I'm a bit perplexed why the NRA would deliberately defy the city council when they don't have an urban renewal plan. So in the absence of that, we set the policy for the city. So we have to adopt an urban renewal plan. As you all know, the urban renewal plan expired in 2005. So essentially, a court's going to look back to us and say, well, what do the elected officials want? And we want the NRA to go away. Now, we also want to have a park. So I really don't know. I wasn't at the meeting where the NRA voted to do this deed that the mayor talked about. I don't know what was said by R.J. Lyman, the attorney advising us. He is a lobbyist. I guess that was said to sort of characterize him in a negative light, but you know, he's a registered lobbyist. He lobbies the legislature for us. He's doing his job. Look, you know, I spoke before. Robert Uhlig is someone that I did not want to confirm, and we didn't confirm over a year ago, and yet he continued on. Both he and David Sancerre, who's still on the NRA board, both promised to me that they would resign effective July 1, 2018, which neither of them did. So this is just a mess. You know, we'll talk about the litigation options in closed session, but you know, clearly it is not inaccurate for the mayor to say that they are a rogue agency. I just don't know why they're doing this. Again, ultimately, the bulkhead as well, which I guess was the subject of this deed, under our resolution was, is, and will go to the Waterfront Trust. So this is all unnecessary. But clearly, this is a very dangerous board, and it is an emergency. We simply don't know what they're going to do next, which is what I told the Senate committee when I testified a few weeks ago. And sure enough, they did something really unpredictable. So it is an emergency. I do think we need to get some new officials in office right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Hearing none. Do we need a roll call on this?
I would advise a roll call.
I believe we should.
Two-thirds vote.
Point of order, is this on the emergency or?
This is on the emergency preamble.
This is on the emergency preamble for the appointment 108.
Yeah,
Councilor
we'll take a roll
O'Brien.
call.
No.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earl.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junter is still absent. Khan is still absent. Council President.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion fails.
I'm
Meeting
sorry.
8.
I believe that was 8.
I think it was 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who am I missing? O'Brien is a no. Shan is a no.
No,
Tantar.
I said yes. I said yes.
You gotta speak up, come on now.
I did.
We couldn't hear you.
Just for the record, Councilor Shan,
Yes.
thank you.
Why'd you change your mind?
Now my math's better.
I heard the yes.
Did you?
I did, yes.
I did hear the no.
Yes.
My apologies.
Nice try.
Yeah, we're gonna get you,
That was the echo of Tom's.
we're gonna get you a calculator for Christmas, Richard.
All right. First grade math, come on.
So the emergency preamble having passed, we now go to the substance
The
of
appointment number 108, which reads, I hereby appoint, subject to your approval, the following named individual as a member of the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority to fulfill the unexpired term beginning May 8, 2017, and which will expire May 8, 2022. Patricia Moore, 67 Curzon Mill Road, Newburyport, Mass.
I would like a roll.
Motion to approve.
Moved and seconded. A roll call on this matter after discussion. Councilor Seed.
Yeah, I want to speak just so that the Ward 2 councilor isn't the only one. I've been pretty consistent about the redevelopment authority, in my opinion, in my view, not having the authority to transfer any land. And I rode the custom house train all the way until the end, and I was the only one left on the car. So I've been consistent on that. What really frustrates me is the idea that we're not being deliberate, even though we spent 2 years coming up with a plan, that because it wasn't apparently the outcome that some wanted, it wasn't a valid plan. So to say that we haven't tried is frustrating. Now, I'm not a zealot. I don't have problems with deviations from the ad hoc if they're sensible. Doing a 50-50 split of the tidelands is a deviation from the ad hoc, which actually had a different split where the Waterfront Trust would receive in its entirety the upper portion of the tidelands above the embayment, and the city would receive the lower part, but 100% each instead of 50-50. But what frustrates me is that I will take the short-term pain of voting for these because I believe that the deal that was struck at a meeting which I chose not to attend because I didn't see that anything big was posted on it, and I wanted to spend some time with my kids, creates the next 100 years of gridlock on the waterfront. A 50-50 deal is tenuous to begin with, but a 50-50 deal with no underlying agreement is a disaster. And we actually had the chair of the redevelopment authority, the former chair, stand right here. I went back and watched the tape and say that we'll do the 50-50 transfer once we have the deal. I haven't seen any deal. I actually haven't even seen any motion that any deal was to be struck. The deed, which was presented to us briefly, does have one sentence about the bulkhead. That is the tip of the iceberg. There are costs, there are liabilities. If that deed was presented to us on the city council to accept the land, my answer would have been no, because you need to have, if you're gonna have a 50-50 joint venture and you're not planning on a time when your interests may diverge, it's a failure to begin with. I don't know what else to do. I mean, I think we've tried to be deliberate. It's not fun or easy to do these things, but I'm not willing to avoid the short-term pain to set up the next 100 years of development on the waterfront. So I'll be supporting both of these, and I'm going to hope that we will just hold on until we can now do this the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on this matter.
Roll call for the appointment of Patricia Moore. Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tanta.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junter and Khan are both absent. Still, Council President.
Yes.
That would be 2 absent, 9 yes. Motion passes.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item in a similar way is an emergency preamble for David Tibbetts as an appointment to the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority, time sensitive to the pending home rule petition relating to the dissolution of the authority. Council hereby declares an emergency, waives Rule 12A, and such that it may be voted upon its first introduction. Submitted to Councilor Connell.
Motion approved.
Second.
Yes, I heard a second, Counselor Vogel. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
This appointment of, it's the emergency preamble for the appointment of David Tibbetts. Councilor O'Brien.
No.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junter and Khan still absent. Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item is the appointment.
Appointment itself, which is the appointment of David Tibbetts to fill the unexpired term of Marion Levy. Term will expire October 30th, 2020. David A. Tibbetts, Esquire, 26 Tickham Street, Unit 1, Newburyport, Mass.
Motion approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call on this appointment.
The second was, thank you.
Counselor Z. Ivan moved, Z second.
Appointment of David Tibbetts, Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tonto.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, councilors. Orders.
We have the late file appointments, Mr. President.
We have the following late file. First one, Mr. President, would be appointment number 112.
Go ahead.
Which is the appointment of Patricia Pecknick, 4 Dove Street, to the Historic Commission until July 31st, 2021, with accompanying resume.
Motion to approve on first reading.
And seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's passed on first reading. Thank you, councilors. Next item.
Appointment 113, also a late file item. It's the appointment of Elizabeth Delisle, 50 Woodland Street, Newburyport, Mass., to fill the unexpired term of Rishi Nandi until August 31st, 2021.
Motion to refer to planning and development.
Second. Moved and seconded to planning and development. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? In planning and development. Next item.
We are moving to orders. Order 126. It is a 1-hour parking on Merrimack Street on the northerly side, McKay's Wharf Way, and running westerly for a distance of 180 feet, submitted Councilor Agaman.
Motion to refer to public safety.
Second. Moved to public safety, seconded by Councilor Z. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moved. Order 127.
Order 127 is submitted by jointly Councilors Shan and Tontar, that pursuant to 82 Section 21, having received a report from the Planning Board in accordance with 4181I, approves the alteration and layout of High Street to include those parcels of land depicted as 4 permanent sidewalk easement locations on plan entitled Plan of Land, High Street, Newburyport, Mass., dated May 24th of this year.
What is the will of council?
Motion to refer to the Committee on Planning and Development.
Mr. President.
Is there a second to that motion?
For the purpose of discussion. Second, sure. I'm
sorry, did I hear a second on that?
Yes.
And then we can discuss.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
It says
Councilor
having received a report from the planning board. Did we receive that?
Councilor Agaman?
Yeah, I think this is a paperwork that's trailing. This is related to the 3 items that were already in the Planning and Development Committee, and we did get a report. It's a late file on your desk that's unnumbered from the planning director. So I think procedurally what we need to do is waive the rules and accept this late, unless this is a copy. It's late, right? This is late.
You did.
Yeah.
We're voting on it tonight. So change your motion.
So,
I withdraw my motion.
Councilor Catanto has the option of either modifying or withdrawing his motion and submitting something new, right?
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay, motion to...
Is the second withdrawn?
Yes, it's withdrawn. So motion to waive the rules to accept it as a late filed item and...
Unnumbered.
Unnumbered, and refer it to planning and development. They're going to take it out later tonight.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Just for the record, we have waived the rules. We referred it to Planning and Development. It was moved by Councilor Agaman, seconded by Councilor Tontar.
Right.
All.
Thank you. We're down to order 128.
Order 128.
We have 127. Point of order?
That was 127.
That was 127.
Yes.
This is 128 coming up.
Okay. City Council approves a minor amendment to the July 10th order of appropriation for FY18 CPA projects by eliminating the restriction placed on Project 11, Clipper City Rail Trail Phase 3, in its entirety, and authorizing use of funds for any portion of Phase 3 Clipper City Rail Trail Loop deemed timely and feasible by the City of Newburyport Office of Planning and Development. Accordingly, the following restriction included with the July 10th order is hereby eliminated. Quote, all design monies associated with any work should be for the City of Newburyport portion and not outside the city. All other terms and conditions remain unchanged. Councilor Tonta.
Motion to refer to Committee on Budget and Finance.
Is there a second? Second. Councilor Vogel, seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of referring this to the Budget and Finance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. Order 129. It's emergency preamble.
Order 129, emergency preamble, states as follows: due to the fact the matter referenced in Order 129, an increase to the FY 2019 spending limit for the Recreational Services Revolving Fund is time sensitive, as the city auditor must close the fiscal year June 30th. Therefore, the council affirmatively declares an emergency exists and may be voted on its first introduction. Submitted, Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, I think that has to be a roll call. I
Actually, it
apologize.
needs to be a two-thirds vote, doesn't need to be a roll call, if it's clear.
I'll take a roll call on this, please.
Roll call for order emergency preamble 129. Councilor O'Brien? Yes. Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel? Yes. Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Earls?
Yes.
Councilor Agaman?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds. I just think as a policy, if it's a roll call and it requires a numerical majority that's
Fine.
set by statute, we'd better do that.
I'm with you.
Yep. Is there a let's see, what's next item up here? We have to act on Order 129.
Order 129, which needs action. The City Council authorizes the increase to spending limit, recreational services, spending limit of $490,000. Revised spending limit for FY19 is $525,000. Submitted, Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve.
And seconded to approve. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Mr. President, this, we just increased the limit on this revolving fund, I think at the last meeting, or the meeting before, and we didn't raise it enough. As you may recall from our last discussion, we merged two revolving funds, one for the school drop-off and recreation, and with increase in programs, increase in participation, as well as the higher minimum wage, the transfer is, we need to raise the limit. If you look at this revolving fund, you'll see that it's approximately breaking even. We're not collecting a lot of money here. The money is, we need to do this so that they'll have the funds to do the programs. I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zede.
Just briefly, I mean, we're going to probably talk about this again during the Budget and Finance when we have the revolving fund order, but in committee on that one, we discussed, or at least I should say, I discussed my growing unease with the size of this fund because it's essentially extra budget, which means it doesn't really come before us. And I had hesitation when we raised it to 490, and that was a big jump, but kind of agreed that combining with the M School drop-in, the old revolving fund, that it made sense. I don't think we should do this, and I think that I would remind councilors that there is an alternative. It's not don't spend the money, it's just show us what the expenses are and we can approve them. I realize that we're in a tough spot because of the timeline here, but we're now growing north of $500,000 that essentially is completely outside of our budget. Nobody really can see it, and while I appreciate the finance director making strides towards tracking that and budgeting for it better, and that is appreciated and noted, we're still talking about a fairly large sum kind of out there. So I know that doesn't quite jive with the emergency, but we did do this a couple weeks ago, and apparently, we've got more things. So I'll be opposing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion. Councilor Ackerman.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote in favor because of the timing. We only have 6 days, I gather, and that's a problem. But it is a lot of money not to be in the budget. I mean, when you're getting to $500,000, we probably need to talk to the director about how we can, and the finance director, about how we might administer this in the future. But I'm going to vote for this.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, the committee, as a result of the Ward 1 Council's question, did ask the finance director to examine other options, which I think we will continue to do. He did provide us with some information. I think this constitutes 0.68% of the operating budget. We get information on other communities where what their revolving funds for recreation is relative to that. We're a little higher than the average, although we're certainly not like Lexington or some of the other communities that are much higher. So we're in there, but I think we do need to discuss what to do about this.
I'm wondering if the finance director has anything he would like to add to this discussion at this time?
Mr. President, Ethan Manning, City Auditor. We did look at different options. I've looked at different options for this fund in the past since it is large. But as Councilor Tontar mentioned, this is not unusual for a municipality to have a large recreational services revolving fund, just because there are so limited accounting options for rec services. Whereas some funds, such as the paid parking fund, is set up as a receipts reserve for appropriation fund, one might think that could be applied to this particular group as well, where you set up the reserve fund and then use it to fund the budget from the fund. Unfortunately, Mass General Law does not provide that as an appropriate use of that type of fund. Therefore, you're left with either putting all of these user fees into the general fund, which I can't think of any towns that do that, just because they're so variable in nature, and they're derived to pay for expenses of the programs. It would just be impossible to budget for, or I should say a very tough effort. That's why pretty much all municipalities default to the large revolving fund, as we do. And as the councilor mentioned, we are looking at breaking out this account in much more detail going into FY20. The Director of Youth Services and I have worked on this. We know it's a concern, and we're looking to make it as transparent as we can as to what the funds are being spent on.
Thank you. Thank you. While you're up there, are there questions from the councilors? Hearing none. Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. Is this a roll call item? I think it should be.
Doesn't need to be. Is approval
Yeah,
on the
I think it
floor?
would be appropriate at this time
Okay.
because it's a dispersal.
This is a motion to
Large
approve
number.
Order 129. Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Ryan. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel. Yes. Councilor Z.
No.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, councilors. We're up to Order 130. And for this item, I would like to relinquish the chair so that I can speak to this item. If Councilor Earls would assume the chair for a few minutes.
Order 130, City Council hereby approves the amendment number 1 to the contract between the City Council and the City Clerk. Amendment dated June 24th, 2019, originally dated June 12th, 2017. Said contract attached here to and incorporated herewith, submitted Councilor Connell.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to
So you go ahead, Councilor.
Point of order.
Budget and Finance.
Councilor Agaman?
I withdraw the motion. Motion to
Unbelievable. Budget.
send to general government. Yes,
Okay,
you're right.
second.
That's it, budget.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, very good. Any discussion? President Council?
Yes. As you may recall in our recent budget discussions, the issue of a salary increase to the city clerk, for the city clerk, was a matter of considerable concern. And one of the points that I thought was correctly made was that we did not have a new updated contract to define the duties of the city clerk. So following that discussion, I decided to, in consultation with the clerk, to understand better the kinds of things he did on a day-to-day basis, the additional responsibilities that he has assumed in the years since first being appointed to this position, that we would give you more specificity in terms of his duties, the way he spends his time, the number of people he supervises, the responsibilities he has in terms of managing income, particularly through the parking system, and so that we can have some more clarity to justify what I believe are fully justifiable increases in his compensation. So that's what you have before you, and I look forward to working in committee to looking at in more detail, hearing your comments, your criticism, your amendments to this contract, if they seem appropriate, and bringing it back to the council floor for final approval at a future date. That's the long and the short of it.
Any further discussion? Mr. Bryan?
Yes, this was referred to general government. I'd like to refer it to an executive session because you're discussing some personnel in the city of Newburyport. I think it would be advisable to have that in executive session. Just an amendment.
I accept that as a friendly amendment. That's a good suggestion.
I'll second that. I was the seconder.
Discussion on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Now we're back to the main body.
I'd like to make a point of order, if I may. I'm sorry. I'm just not sure how the mechanics of that work. So you send it to committee now if you want to hear it during an executive session of the council. It seems like a table would be more in order, and then you would call an executive session and untable it to discuss it. Neither here nor there, but just something to think about.
Councilor Eigenman.
Well, I understood it to be that the executive committee would meet in, the general government committee would meet in executive session.
Oh,
That's
committee would meet.
Committee would go in executive session.
Well, then,
Councilor Z.
I'd like to, I know it's posthumous now, but to add committee of the whole, because I don't know what you do if you have three and then you have, I assume we're all going to want to say something at some point.
If that's an amendment, I'll second that.
Are you offering that as an amendment?
I don't know that, I'll just make a motion to add committee of the whole to what is this, order number 130. Not as an amendment because we've already passed on that one, so I'll just.
And I heard a second.
I'll second it.
Just for clarity, any discussion on that amendment?
Yes, I just want to make sure that the reference to this being posthumous is a bit premature.
Posthumous to the vote on referral to committee.
I fully agree with you that it should be done in executive session and with the full consultation of the councilors.
Further discussion on that amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We're back to the original motion.
As amended.
As amended.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Does Richard get to be there?
This dime is by the foot of your chair.
First test minutes on that. No, we're going to write in here that you're immortal. It's not a problem.
As Councilor so often says, words matter.
Where are we here? 130.
Next order.
Thank you, councilors. Our next order is 131.
Resolution, City of Newburyport to designate the state authorized cultural district for 5 years.
Motion to refer to general government.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinances. Ordinances 14, please.
Ordinance 14, it's a second reading. It's an ordinance to amend regarding the building demolition ordinance. Article 10 goes on for 5 pages. It is submitted by Councilor Eigenman.
Motion to approve on second reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on this matter.
The second was, I'm sorry.
Councilor Tantar was the second.
Second reading, ordinance 14. Roll call, Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
No.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Ordinance passes.
On second reading. Ordinance 37, please.
Ordinance 37 is an ordinance regarding appointment and duties of the city solicitor. It's introduced with several whereases. Section 2-246, appointment qualifications removal, reads as follows. Annually in the month of January, the mayor shall appoint an attorney and counselor at law of courts of the Commonwealth to serve in the office of City Solicitor, Legal Department, which appointment shall be confirmed by the City Council pursuant to Section 2-10 of the Charter. Once so appointed and confirmed, such attorney and counselor shall hold office until his or her successor is appointed and confirmed, and he or she may be removed at any time by the mayor pursuant to subsection A of Section 3-4, said charter. General duties, Section 6, settle any suit against the city solely upon approval of the terms of such settlement by order of the City Council after receiving a recommendation regarding such terms by its Committee on General Government and subject to veto by the mayor under Section 3-7 of the Charter, submitted Councilor Eigenman.
Motion to refer to general government.
Second.
Motions to move to general government discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's in general government. Committee items, budget and finance.
Motion to divide transfer 48 into individual accounts.
Second. Motion to divide. Is there a second?
Second. Over here.
There's a second. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, these are the budget transfers for a number of accounts, including some of the capital expenditures, and I think it's best that we go through each one individually.
Further discussion? How should we proceed, Council? What do you recommend? Should we?
You've divided, so
Divided into each account.
And which are you going with first?
First, I am going with election equipment. It's capital improvement plan number CC001, city clerk election equipment, $47,300.
Motion to approve. Move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I had one no. Next item.
Motion to approve $40,000 DPS highway, purchase 3-quart gas pickup truck with plow.
Second. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I made the motion.
You made the
There's
motion.
been a
You
second.
seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yes, this replaces a 2001 Ford pickup truck. I just wanted to tell, we've had this in committee since April, and we held it in committee because during the budget workshops, we had the opportunity to talk to department heads about their capital purchases and therefore transfers. So we held this until we had done that, and this does replace a 2001 F-150 pickup truck, and the vote was 3-0 in favor of this.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve $125,826 for 2 Mack dump trucks. This is the second year. Well, I'll wait for a second.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yeah, this is the second year of a 3-year lease. We approved the first year last year. 3-0 vote from the committee.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion to approve $200,000 DPS highway, purchase of a tree truck bucket truck.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Once again, 3-0 vote in committee. This replaces a 1999 bucket truck. Wish we had a budget truck. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so tempted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done. Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve $60,000 to the Finance Department for OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yeah, we heard in committee that our current balance is $625,453 in this account, and our current estimated liability is $74 million. So essentially, we try to put a little money in each year, and that keeps the rating agencies relatively happy so far.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done. Councilor Tantar?
Motion to approve $100,000 for compensated absences fund.
Second. Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede. Discussion?
Again, 3-0 in committee, and this is for anticipated retirements.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Motion $150,000 to the Stabilization Trust Fund.
Second. Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede. Discussion?
Yeah, once again, 3-0. This will, for money for a rainy day.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion for $20,000 for IT for appraisal software to update the.
Second. Moved and seconded by Councilor Z. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Again, 3-0 vote in committee. This is necessary, of course, to update the appraisal software, which we need to have.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done. Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve $35,000 for IT hardware information technology.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Once again, 3-0 vote in committee. This is part of the regular program to replace computers in city departments.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion to approve $15,000 for the Knockmolin loading dock renovation.
Second. Moved and seconded for the Knockmolin loading dock
Yes.
restoration, renovation. I think it's self-explanatory.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve $15,000 for the Newburyport High School Pettingill Park infield renovation.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yes, this came out with a 3-0 vote not to have a recommendation. The committee asked the finance director to get information on the two revolving funds. One for the gymnasiums, they collect fees for use by outsiders, and also for the fields that also collect fees. So, hold it, there it is. The school building maintenance revolving fund currently has a fund balance of $38,000. The school district would prefer not to use that to pay for the Pettingill Field. Their argument is that fund balance has been dedicated to hiring summer help that is used to do a lot of grounds work, painting, and a whole list of other general maintenance tasks throughout the summer. The fund's also used for small maintenance needs. For example, screening and recoating of the gym floors each summer that runs $2,000 to $3,000 per floor, and rather than $16,800 that's used. So, bottom line on that, the school district uses the revolving funds for other purposes, and therefore is requesting this transfer.
And what was the vote of the committee again?
Pardon me?
What was the vote?
You know what? I did the gym. Let me do
Yeah.
Let me do the athletic. The fund balance is $99,942 for the athletic revolving fund. It's largely comprised of user fees, right? The account includes some of the revenue generated from the use of fields. This year, they're going to use that money to build a fence at the Eaton Field, which costs about $10,000, and schools are creating a softball field at the Knock. About $25,000. Again, they prefer to have transfers rather than use that money from the revolving fund.
And did the committee approve these?
The committee did not vote on it because We sent it before the council without a recommendation because we did not have that information.
Very well. Further discussion, Councilor Reigerman.
Yeah, I think on this one, to be fair to other departments, I'm going to vote no because they have money in their fund. It sounds like they've identified $35,000 of costs out of a $99,000 fund. So they have sufficient funds to do this. Also, I admit I'm a bit confused. We've gone all over the place on who maintains athletic fields.
Yeah.
So just in my few years on the council, DPS has done it. Then the Parks Department was going to do it, and now the schools are going to do it. So I guess I'm a bit frustrated because they're very important. I think all of us are pro baseball fields. I think we can agree on that. But I don't think this is really a good use of free cash in this case.
Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, just once again, from the school department, school division, their needs a lot made up of a whole bunch of small projects, less than $15,000, so they can't go into community preservation funds for those needs. And their estimate is that if we draw on their reserve funds to pay for this, then they'll be coming to us for transfers later for some of these other projects.
Councilor Zaid? I don't mean to add to the Ward 2 councilor's frustration, but what we also learned is that this was actually relatively new, from what I understand, the infield, but was not properly maintained. And as a result, the idea is to bring in a different kind of material that requires less maintenance. So we're kind of throwing out something that's relatively new. So it's a fairly small amount, and but I think the bigger picture for me anyways is that, if we feel that we need to charge these athletic fees, particularly on the athletic fee side, then I think the expectation of the parents that pay these fees is that it goes back into the facilities essentially. So I think what I'm trying to say is we need to look at this every year, and if that thing is just growing a balance endlessly, then I think it's a sign that we either don't need to collect those fees or we're not deploying those funds correctly. So that would be my comment, and I would say if we can look at that in a year's time in when we do the FY21 budget, that'd be the time to look and say, has it gone up from 99 even with the spending? Then it shows, I think, that you're sort of unfairly taking fees from people.
Fair enough. But that's the financial, to answer, has that $99,000, is that an increase?
Do you know the
building?
historic?
I did. I looked at the history on this fund, and it has closed the year above $100,000 consistently. It has gone down slightly, however, obviously not much, because the balance is still $99,000.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this appropriation? Actually, I think. And which one? Both, because we talked about both now.
This is $15,000 for the Pettingill Park.
Pettingill Park. 15.
15,000 park.
And sensing some discontent among the councilors, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on this.
Okay, so this is 15,000 park infield.
Yes, gladly.
One yes. Councilor Shan?
No.
One no. Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Z?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Earls?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
No.
Councilor Connell?
Yes. Slow vote. And the vote was?
7 yes, needing a simple majority.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes, I'm going to skip. Motion to approve $16,880 for the Knockmullen gym floor refinishing.
Yes.
Second. Okay. Yes, a second.
Definitely that one. Jeez, it is a mess.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is done. Next.
Motion to approve $15,000 for the Knockmullen walkway sidewalk repairs and repaving.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
This is for the walkway out behind the Knockmullen School. It's not in the front, that's later, but school department would like to see it done.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor Tantar?
Motion to approve $54,005 for a tractor for the school department.
Second. Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede. Discussion?
Committee
Tantar.
voted 3-0 to recommend approval of this. These will be used for general field purposes. They've taken on maintenance of all their own school fields. It's also can be used to help remove snow.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. 1 no.
Motion to approve $48,056 for DPS sewer for the second year in a lease on a Mack dump truck.
Second. Moved and seconded. All discussion, please. Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion to approve $50,000 for the Lower Artichoke Reserve Dam improvement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Committee voted 3-0 to recommend approval.
Would the ward councilor want to comment on this? No? All right. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve $50,000 for the public water supply protection.
Second. And seconded by Councilor Z. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
This, once again, we recommend 3-0 for approval. This is to examine the land around the reservoir. Probably would be for subcontract, the work to be done, and seeing what properties could potentially be purchased and what could be done to protect the water. Question was raised in committee by the Ward 1 councilor, I believe, that as to what's West Newbury's share of this. West Newbury will be participating with us, and we do sell water back to them. So we recommend 3-0.
Councilor Z.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that last comment. I mean, I think what's concerning about what's coming over the horizon is not this, because of course it's the public water supply, but that really we're talking about potentially acquiring properties in a different town, and how does that really interrelate? And we obviously work with West Newbury on other things as well, but at the end of the day, this is a major source of water for the city, and what can we do? We did ask in committee, can we share the $50,000 expense with our neighboring community? And the answer was, it doesn't seem like they have a high enough stake in it to be interested in doing so, was basically the bottom line. So, and that applies equally for the Artichoke, the dam. I mean, we're really operating largely across the town line. So I'm just giving you, it says that the last one, land purchase cost TBD, so I'm just giving you an early preview that we could be talking about some substantial numbers at some point. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Do what?
Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve $50,000 for water supply quality improvements, DPS water.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councilor Tantar.
Once again, we voted 3-0 to recommend we provide that you vote in favor of this, that you approve it. That you saw the water study that we had done a couple of years ago showed that the reservoirs are becoming very shallow, and this will do further testing on the quality of the water and recommendations for its improvement, including odor.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment as the Chair of Public Utilities, the cosmetic issues of the water, which are the taste and the odor, I know are an oft concern I hear about, and I'm sure others do as well. So hopefully something could be done there. But again, I'm going to raise the alarm bells that this one has some big numbers attached to it later. The bathyrythmic study, which we did show is pretty shallow, which basically means that dredging it's at some point you're going to have to dredge it, and I think that's part of the reason why the cosmetics of the water are challenging, because when you're pulling from a shallow, you get the muck, frankly, at the bottom, and so just letting you know, more big numbers to come.
It's either that or a filtration system at the plant, which was rejected several years ago by this council. All right, further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion to approve $85,000 for a new crane truck for DPS sewer.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, this is a 3-0 vote to recommend approval. The crane truck has reached the end of its useful life.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve $125,000 for water main replacement, DPS water.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
And once again, 3-0 recommendation to approve. This is part of the normal process of replacing a very old water system.
I just have a question. Did they say which streets will be done by any chance?
No, we didn't discuss that.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve $100,000 DPS sewer for CCTV and cleaning sewer downtown.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, this is a result of the bottleneck in downtown, design problem. They're trying to, the CCTV will take a look at it. And once again, as the Ward 1 Council has noted, this could be big numbers down the line.
Just wanted to add two other brief things. One is just to note that the source of the funds are the I&I fees, which I think is a sensible place to get them from. And the other one is that I'm keenly interested to keep watching how this relates to a potential development on that side of town, we'll call it, because I've spent some time talking to DPS, just learning about what that would mean. That's a pretty important thoroughfare for sewage, because a lot of the lift stations come right down Water Street, down some very old brick-lined, which are beautiful, and the discussion, apparently, if you can think of a sewage line, is beautiful. So I think it makes sense for us to really identify and know what we're looking at. I think the main bottlenecks are that there are several culverts that run down to the river, and when the sewer pipes were laid, when they got to a culvert, they sort of went up and over, and that means the pipe went from being sort of circle to flat and then back to circle. So those are the bottlenecks, and spent a lot of time talking to Jamie about this, and he's been monitoring it over the years to see if it's basically building or not. So we need to understand it so it's well worth the money, but we need to be cognizant of how it may relate to a large development on that side. Thank you. The other side of it, downtown from the plant.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Motion
Councilor
to
Tantar.
approve $71,000 DPS sewer for aeration system upgrade.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Committee recommended 3-0 to approve. The source of funding for this is the surplus from Graff Road. In committee, we asked why it was from there instead of the enterprise fund. The argument on this is that the surplus by state law can be used in any capital project that has the same lifespan as the one that it was originally designed to fund. And there's a I can't recall how much is left in the
Like 400?
in that surplus, but this will cover it,
400.
and we will have some other projects that will come out of that in the future.
I'm sorry, could the finance director approach the microphone and confirm what he just said?
Yes, the exact amount was on the transfer, but I believe the balance is around 400,000, a little higher than that.
Yep.
Thank you.
It is on the transfer. Yeah.
Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve $80,000 DPS sewer, headworks concrete wall and ceiling rehab.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Just 3-0 recommendation to approve.
Thank you. Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion to approve Order 106, intermunicipal agreement animal control services, as amended in committee.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilor O'Brien. Discussion.
Bobcat.
Councilor Tantar. No.
Point of order, is there one?
Did we miss the Bobcat, or did you do the
We
Bobcat?
couldn't catch them.
We did not do Bobcat.
I did not do the
Tiny
Bobcat.
line.
I skipped the Bobcat.
Would the councilor like to withdraw his motion so we can move
Oh.
back to the Bobcat?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
Motion to approve $50,000 DPS sewer, Bobcat loader.
I think we had a motion on the floor.
We did, but it wasn't seconded.
No Bobcat.
It was this motion seconded?
No.
No second, okay, go ahead.
Motion to approve Bobcat loader, $50,000 DPS sewer.
Second.
3-0 recommendation to approve, replace a 1996 Bobcat.
Very well. Further discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there anything else, Councilor Tantar?
Yes. Motion to approve Order 106, intermunicipal agreement animal control services as amended in committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
First of all, the amendments on page 4, there's a change in the hours of operation to conform with City Hall hours. That you have a copy of that amended version. So that's Monday, Wednesday, 8 to 4, Thursday, 8 to 8, and Friday, 8 to 12. Those are the periods of time in which people can go to animal control and pick up any animal who may be arrested for vagrancy. The second amendment was on page 3 and 4, and the committee requested of the city solicitor to examine the language, especially on indemnification. There were 2 changes made. In the paragraph on indemnification, the easy change was the last sentence was just made for clarity, no change in substance. The more substantial change occurs in line 8 of the original and also the amended version, with the addition of the following: or from or in relation to actions taken by the animal control officer on behalf of or at the direction of the first participating governmental unit. That is so that if the animal control officer is indemnified by whichever community calls the person for whatever service. I'd also note on this, in committee, we spent some time discussing the financing. The total cost of animal control officer is $67,234. West Newbury will be contributing $24,050, which is 35.7% of the total. Examining hours, we were told by the health director, if you examine hours of use by West Newbury versus Newburyport, West Newbury uses for about 30 hours. Part of this new contract, which will be just for 1 year, with the possibility of 1-year extensions after that, is that there's a new vehicle, a newer vehicle, a 2015 vehicle being provided by West Newbury. West Newbury pays for insurance. Newburyport, however, will pay for maintenance of that vehicle. The vote was 3-0 to recommend approval.
Councilor Z.
Just a couple brief comments. One is the 1-year extensions are only with approval of the city council. It would be nice to get to a point where we could just do a 3-year deal on this instead of having to come back to it. We talked with the CAO about maybe some initiatives to do that for next year so we don't have to have the same discussion. My suggestion is I think that the Veterans Affairs deal is actually a pretty sensible one, where part of it is based on population and part is based on load or cases. Seems to be a fairer way to do it rather than just a flat cost. And the final thing that's a little bit unclear is that the travel time isn't clear on so I know we're tracking time on calls, but obviously if the ACO has to go from the end of Plum Island to West Newbury, that could be a 40-minute drive, depending on the time of day. The last thing I'll say is I'm not sure any of the committee members felt that Article 10 was the clearest thing we've ever read, but it did go through the city solicitor, just so that you know. They did look at it. They wrote that, and West Newbury agreed to it because we were questioning whether we were covered on liability. So it's good enough for a year. It wouldn't be good enough for 3. Maybe next year we can take another crack at it.
Further discussion?
Councilor Agaman.
Yeah, I just had a question on the hours. I didn't understand. So when you say, so what's the split between how much was spent in West Newbury and how much here? You said it was 30 hours.
Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, we were told 30% West Newbury, 70% in Newburyport.
Yeah, not 30 hours. I think you meant 30%.
Not 30 hours.
30%.
30%,
right?
yes.
30%.
So that's 3/4 of the time.
30 hours.
100 hours a week.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And before we proceed any further...
Because it's an IMA.
Mr. President,
Yes.
suggested by Council Zed's a good one. It's a intermunicipal agreement with the roll calls in order.
Great.
Would that be okay?
question. And then I'll make my comments. So we'll revert to a roll call on that matter. Go ahead.
Thank you. Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earl.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Now my pejorative comment. We have 2 attorneys for executive session waiting in the wings. We pay them by the hour. So let's please keep that in mind since we're the appropriating authority. Is there anything else, Councilor Tantar?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. Motion to approve transfer 56, snow and ice.
Second.
Moved and seconded, snow and ice. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's more like it. Councilor Tantar.
Motion to approve transfer 57, health insurance to fire, miscellaneous supplies, and human resources payroll, and human resource FSA administrator.
And I heard a second from Councilor Z. Discussion.
Just to tell you that for fire supply, miscellaneous supplies, for diving supplies, for the divers in the fire department, the 2 HR transfers are driven by use. So the subcontractors, the more activity, the higher the cost. Oh my God. 3-0 to recommend.
Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Motion.
One no.
Motion to approve transfer 58.
Second.
Elections and registration.
Moved and seconded.
3-0 recommendation to approve. This is for the copier, just because of the timing. One payment from the lease last year fell off, and we're doing 2 this year just because of the calendar.
Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve transfer 59, solid waste revolving fund, 40K.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Just note that their amendment in committee, the 40K was replaced with 40K or actual.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion to transfer $3,250 from free cash to Brown School expenses, transfer 60.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Motion to approve order 114, parking garage, Monday to Friday, monthly employee pass.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, we amended this in committee as well. You have a copy of it. We added the Monday, Friday employee monthly pass for the garage shall be valid until November 1st, 2019. We had some discussion in committee over this as to, and the at-large councilor voted no on recommendation to approve. Her argument, she would have preferred that anticipating some other changes in parking to do it more, I think our term was holistically. However, our vote was 2-1 to recommend approval. I personally have no problem with segmenting the market, and I think it's a win-win for everybody by doing this. So,
thank you. Further discussion. Councilor Shan.
Right. I agree. I think we should be doing this in a more holistic way with the Parking Advisory Committee, but just so that we all understand, that's why we put the November 1st deadline, since we are doing the same with the in passes as well. So we'll have a chance to look at how the summer season goes, and then by November 1st, have a chance to look at what if we did it right or not. So.
Excellent. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
One no.
motion to approve order 120 mitigation payment appropriation.
Move. Is there a second? Second. There is a second, Councilor Z. Councilor Tantar, discussion.
3-0. This is the result. We got a copy of the license agreement. This is the result of the agreement on the redoing the bridge. And I think we get a total of, well, $600-something thousand. It's going to be used for a number of projects around the water treatment plant, but also to repave Spofford and also add a sidewalk on Spofford coming out of the roundabout in Ward 6.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Present. One present.
Motion to approve Order 121, acceptance of $500 Tucker Scholarship Gift Association.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none.
The committee is grateful for the contribution.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Thank you to the...
Motion to approve Order 122, fiscal year 20 revolving fund order.
Second. Seconded. Discussion? Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, very quickly, we took a close look at the limits that were spent, that were set. Pretty much the funds are around, breaking even. And the requests for increases are relatively small and in line with year-to-date, generally speaking. So I recommend 3-0 approval.
Just a quick question.
Further discussion, Councilor Vogel.
Thank you. So earlier we talked about the recreational services as a different number, and now this number is on here. How does that work?
Councilor Tantar.
I believe, given the council's interest in keeping these numbers low over the past few years and having departments come in and request extra money, that the administration set this number, again, relatively low.
Councilor Z.
But just to answer more mechanically, the prior vote was for FY19, it expires in 6 days. This will be the new vote for 20, so who knows? We'll see if we either get another structure or we get another request to increase it or transfers. Is that what your question was?
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Budget and Finance is done, Mr. President. Thank you.
Education? There's nothing tonight. General Government? Nothing. License and permits?
Nothing to report.
Neighborhood and City Services?
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Planning and Development?
Yes, Mr. President, motion to remove Ordinance 30, amendment to Article 27, Downtown Overlay District.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Just a motion to remove.
Remove. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Councilor Agnew.
Yes, as many of you know, we've had multiple meetings on this in committee. I think it's up to 4 now, all public, all with the availability of public testimony. And then there were 2 sessions of the joint public hearing required under state law, one in May, and then we continued it to last week. I'm happy to report that the planning board, as you'll see on your desk, did vote to recommend approval. One caveat, I'm going to make a motion to amend. I'm indebted to the ward councilor from Ward 4. He found a typo on page 8. The second paragraph, second to last line, there's a missing word to, T-O. I'll hand this to the clerk. So the sentence should end, application of the relevant criteria of this section to the proposed work. And so that's a motion to amend, to add that word. And I'll hand it to the clerk.
Bless you. Thank you, Council.
So we have a motion to amend. Was it seconded by Councilor Tantar? Mm-hmm. Wasn't certain of that. Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Councilor, are there any further amendments?
No.
So we revert to the passage of the initial...
Yes, I do want to make one observation, though.
or the ordinance. Go ahead, Councilor
Just
Eigenman.
in your packet, there's a reference to guidelines that are also in your packet. The guidelines are incorporated by reference, so you're also approving that language. But to be clear, they're just guidelines. So they're not mandatory. They're something that would be handed to any building owner, any homeowner, so that they have something they can hold on to when they're considering a project and they know the rules.
Very well. Further discussion? Hearing none. Let's take a roll call on this, please.
So motion to approve is amended. Ordinance 30. Councilor Bryan.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
No.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Ordinance passes.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilor?
Yes, if you could bear with me, I'd like to bring out collectively all three items relating to High Street. So that's Order 123, Order 124, Order 125, and earlier tonight, we referred another order, which I don't remember the number. 127? Yes, 127. So I'd like to bring out all four collectively.
First, we're bringing them all up collectively. Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede.
Okay.
Discussion, Councilor Eigenman.
All right, first, motion to receive and file Order 123, referral to the Planning Board. Okay, second. This is...
Councilor, that motion was to refer to the planning board?
Yeah, that's 123. It's a referral to the Planning Board,
No, it was
not
to
the
receive and
approval.
file.
I see.
Receive and file. Yeah.
Receive and file.
Receive and file.
Thank you. Just Order 123.
Did we take a vote on taking all of these out of committee?
Thought we did.
We did.
Oh, okay.
So
we can take
that motion is premature. First, on the motion to take all four out of committee simultaneously, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah. Hold on, Mr. President.
Yes.
Yeah. You get it.
It's three, isn't it?
There's 3 plus 127.
Came in today.
The one that came in as a late file.
Thank you.
And now your motion is timely.
Motion to receive and file Order 123, order to refer to the Planning Board.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Eigenman.
Okay, I'll explain everything at once. That's why I took it. We had a meeting on this in committee. Jordy Vining attended. He's the project manager. Here's the story. So High Street, of course, is ancient. Hundreds and hundreds of years old. There was never any formal layout of it the way you would for a modern street. So, for example, when Mass DOT lays out a new highway, they do a quote layout, and they record a plan. So, for example, in 1934, when they did the Route 1 bypass, they recorded that, and it's called a layout. So everybody knows where Route 1 starts and ends. Well, that never happened for High Street, obviously. It's been there since the 1600s in various forms. But what's going on now with Safe Routes to School is that there are certain little scraps of land that we're clarifying that they're part of the street. So specifically, Jordy explained, the city solicitor advised that we take 4 permanent easements, so it's surface rights, for areas of High Street that technically, if you look at the old deeds, were corners of people's lots, but they didn't even know that because there's sidewalks over and people have been passing back and forth over the sidewalk probably for over 100 years. But to clarify, what we were to do is refer this to the planning board, which happened. They did vote on it last week. That's why I'm receiving and filing. It's moot. They did take up this item at our joint hearing. Well, they did it on their own calendar, but it was that night. And so they have sent in a late filed document saying that they approve the layout and recommend that we also approve it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to receive and file our order from June 10th asking them for their review because it's moot. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to accept the layout. And what you're accepting again is that we agree as the city of Newburyport that these little 4 scraps, some are 5 square feet, some are 24 square feet, and all of the homeowners know about them. They've all been contacted. They're fully aware of this. They're not part of their yards. Again, they thought it was part of the sidewalk because it's outside their fence, but technically it's on their lot. we're now saying in the second thing we do, after we vote on this, that we accept those things as part of High Street. Okay. Then we have to authorize an order of taking. Now, it sounds more grandiose than it is. We're using eminent domain really so we can just clear title. It's not really adverse. That's a friendly taking. So again, the owners know we're doing this, and their property, the properties, at least the permanent easements, are things that they never thought they owned in the first place. There are also temporary easements, which have a shelf life of only 3 years, so we can do the project. We're not going to be able to do the Safe Routes to School project this summer. It'll happen next summer, and then we have a couple years of fudge, in case something goes wrong. The temporary easements are really to lay down materials and to occupy parts of private property to do the construction. That's it. Then the last thing we're going to vote on is the actual order of taking. It's the formal order that gets recorded in Salem to put the whole world on notice that these takings have occurred. And again, there's only 2 flavors of taking. There's the 4 permanent easements for those little bits of sidewalk that they didn't know existed, which they now understand. And there's a temporary. Okay. Finally, there's the question of compensation. So under the federal and state constitutions, you are entitled, when there is a taking of private property, to just compensation. In this case, Jordy went to each one of the owners. They're all on that long, long list, explained everything to them. The lion's share of them said, listen, I don't need any money. It's fine. You're improving the street that I live on, so I don't need any money. But again, by law, this is funded by Mass DOT, this project. There's all kinds of bureaucracy. There were appraisals done. And so there were some low values that were assigned. And there are a few households noted in your packet that have insisted on taking cash. So I think they range from $500 award to one owner to $900 to another. Now, in fairness, and this came out in our discussion, because the permanent easements, at least those 4 permanent easements I talked about, have been sidewalks for 100 years, if we were to litigate the question, they would probably be awarded nothing because we have a prescriptive right. The public already uses it, so they're actually not being damaged. But then we'd have to pay our lawyers to do that, which would be more than $500. So we just called it even. So again, the vote before you, and I'm here to answer any questions, is first to receive and file the referral. Let's do that, and then we're going to proceed with the next 3.
All right. And the receive and file is 127, do I have that correct?
No, 123.
123.
Referral.
Referral. Okay, thank you, Councilor. Okay, so the motion is to receive and file 123. Councilor Zede.
Just to get all my questions quick, so one is, those that have waived have signed an agreement, a written agreement waiving compensation, because those agreements are not in here, but I just want to know that there's paper behind that those owners signed. Okay, question 1. Question number 2 is, so the total amount of the monies being paid out is fairly small. I mean, we did an appropriation, I remember, I think was it 40,000 or something like that. So where's that rest of that money going to go? That's my second question. Third one is, just out of curiosity, it's not happening this year, so High Street's just going to be open, or is this a different thing? Just so that I can know what to tell people.
Councilor Agaman.
All good questions. Question 1, yes, we specifically asked staff, they do have in writing their waiver of compensation, so we're covered, so they can't change their mind. 2, we asked, I think it was Councilor Shand asked the same question, what about our 40 grand? It'll be returned to us because they're under budget, so it'll come back. 3, they are, my understanding is DPS is doing, this massive High Street project where they're going to mill everything down this summer, and we've all been waiting for that. I guess it's going to happen in July. So, and it will include the area where the Safe Routes to School is, which is right by the high school all the way to Johnson Street. But it makes no sense for them to finish the paving, do all the coats of the asphalt until the Safe Routes to School. So Jordy explained to us they're going to mill everything. Then they're going to finish the rest of the street except for the Safe Routes to School. They're going to do a skim coat, as he called it. I'm not an engineer. So one coat that really could only last a couple of years before it wears out. And then so they don't have to duplicate efforts and waste money. And then the Safe Routes to School bit is going to come in next year, summer of 2020, and they're going to finish that area. So we asked the exact same question. are we wasting money by, are these projects coordinated, and we were assured that they are?
Just in brief response, I mean, respectfully, that doesn't sound like they're in sync. I mean, it sounds like we're going to put down asphalt that we're effectively going to take up a year later on that portion. So it's neither here nor there. It doesn't affect my approval of this, but I thought the whole thing was these were coming together, all done at the same time. I didn't know Safe Routes was going to go out another year.
I see the planning director and the project manager are both here, so perhaps one of you or both of you can respond.
The project manager.
A little clarity here.
Thank you. Public Services discussed this particular project. Public Services believes with the Mayor's office that the repaving work that is being done right now, the milling and paving needs to be done, especially prior to the next winter season. We have to go another whole year basically before they can get out there for construction. There's some procedural process like the advertisement of the bid for the construction project that has to happen. So given all that time that has to take place, it was deemed necessary to resurface that area, but put in a minimal amount of money to make a safe drive for everybody through that section. It's not in great condition.
Do you have a number on that?
I do not, but I don't know whether anybody else in the room does.
So I guess I'd reiterate, I think based on the condition of High Street, the funding that we had available, it made sense to go forward with doing the 3 roads to Winter Street, the paving. Of course, part of that is going to be the Safe Routes to School program area. So everything would be milled. There'd be I think it's a shim coat, skim coat, however you want to call it. So it would be a very temporary, smooth surface on that Safe Routes to School area so that once High Street is paved by the second week of July is what we're anticipating, it would look like a brand new paved street from 3 roads to Winter, except for the fact that that one portion that MassDOT is coming back to would be redoing that road with many other improvements in addition to just that skim coat. So it is a nominal cost in order to do that skim coat. In order to get that part of High Street done, which I think we all agree is in pretty bad shape, and then focus on other parts of High Street in future years, it made sense to do it this way.
Is that satisfactory? Councilor O'Brien.
Yes, many years ago, when I was city councilor, I proposed safe routes to the school to buy in wintertime. And I convinced the DPS to buy a trackless tractor. I was told that they would basically do Toppins Lane, High Street, because if you have safe routes to school, if they can't walk it, they're going to be in the street, so it's not going to be safe. So, but where do I see the trackless tractor all the time? Downtown. I think it should be out in the streets, making the streets really safe routes to school, so they won't have to walk in the damn streets. I mean, it's do the sidewalks, just do the main sidewalks on routes to on the Bresnahan to the middle school to the high school, so those kids won't be walking in the middle of the street.
Would the administration like to respond to the allocation of resources?
I'm sorry.
Would the administration like to respond to the allocation of resources for school safety?
It's noted.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will remind us of the original order, please.
Motion to receive and file Order 123.
Thank you. No further discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's done. Councilor Eigenman.
Yes, motion to approve Order 127.
That was the easy. Is there a second?
Second.
Paving today.
I heard Councilor Shand, I believe. Seconded. Discussion. Councilor Eigenman.
Again, this is now the order where the city council takes up what the planning board did. So it reads that the city council of the city of Newburyport pursuant to such and such, having received a report from the Newburyport Planning Board in accordance with General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81, approves the alteration of the layout of High Street to include those parcels of land, blah, 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 4 permanent sidewalk easements. That's it. That's what I'm talking about, those 4 little scraps of surface land. And so we are approving that and saying that is part of High Street. I would recommend we do a roll call.
Can you further discussion? Can you just hold up the piece of paper so I can see what it looks like?
Yes.
The backside. It's not in there, sure.
Better eyes than I do. Okay.
It's in your electronic packet.
Further discussion. Hearing none, let's take a roll call on this matter.
Okay, again, for the record, this is Order 127.
Yes.
It came in with orders at the beginning of the agenda. It states that City Council pursuant to 8221 having received a report from the Planning Board in accordance with 4181I approve the alteration layout of High Street, include those parcels.
So,
Depicted on the plan of land.
I'm sorry. So if it came in tonight, I'm getting the plot now, Mr. President.
Councilor Zede.
Point of order. So do you need an emergency on this because it came in tonight?
Councilor,
We're going to do
I
land.
thought of that, but I guess better safe than sorry than do. I mean, it's really all the same matter, and I'm not sure why it came in, the paperwork came in late. But I withdraw the motion, and I make a motion for emergency preamble in order to keep the project on schedule.
second that.
Second by Councilor Shand, I believe. Yes. Discussion of attaching an emergency preamble to this matter. Hearing Councilor Devlin.
I just have it, so we got it in the agenda and the paper form, but it references a plan that we didn't get. Am I missing that?
Where's the plan?
Councilor Eigenman?
Well, it is in the packet, actually. The plans are the same that came in last time, so I think the packet that's posted on the website for the public does have the plans in it. But councilors didn't get the plans again because we were supposed to be saving paper, but it is technically in the packet.
It's in the digital packet.
It's not in today's, it's not in the digital package that we got for this meeting. It might be in the last digital package, but it's not in, there's only this piece of paper in the digital package.
So are you satisfied that you've received the items that you need to act on?
No.
Councilor Zede.
Just to clarify what I think the Ward 2 Council is saying, it's attached to Order 125. After Schedule A, the last 4 pages, in between the Schedule A and the Schedule of Owners, there are 4 maps, and they're from Feldman, and I believe the date aligns with what's referenced in the order we have in front of us now. So I think that's what's confusing, is you got it.
Thank you. Thank you. Further discussion? Then we'll take a roll call on this matter.
This is a roll call on the emergency preamble, Order 127. Councilor O'Brien.
No.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion to approve the underlying Order 127.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I believe we've had discussion, and this will take more. Is there further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, roll call on this matter.
The motion to approve on the order itself, 127, by Councilor Eigenman, seconded by Councilor Zede, I believe. Councilor O'Brien. No. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman. Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Further matters?
Yes, motion to approve Order 124, order to acquire temporary and permanent easements and award damages for the Safe Routes project.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Sounds like money, so we have 2 seconds on this. Councilor Eigenman.
All right, we're almost through, so this is the order that authorizes the next order. I hope everyone's clear on what it is. I apologize for the confusion, but not my fault.
No confusion. Further discussion?
So motion to approve order 124.
Yes. Roll call, Madam Chair.
Councilor O'Brien. No. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion to approve Order 125. This is the order of taking to be recorded at the registry.
Second, third, fifth.
Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede, I believe.
I think Charlie had it.
Councilor Tantar, who wants it?
Whatever.
I'll take it.
Tom's got it.
Discussion. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call on this matter.
This is order number 125, motion to approve. Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls. Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes. I think that's it for planning and development.
I don't know.
Thank you, Councilor. Public safety.
Yes. Motion to approve appointment 103, Paul Hogg, harbor master and special police officer.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councilor Devlin.
2-0 in committee, he appeared, nobody appeared in opposition, or had any comment. Thank you.
That's a question. Further discussion? Hearing none. We'll take a roll call on this.
It's a roll call for the appointment of Paul Hogg. Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion to approve communication 157, Block Party, Temple Street.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
2-0 out of committee, talked to the organizer, no changes from last year, and it went off swimmingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done.
Motion to remove communication 158.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councilor Devlin.
2-0 out of committee, talked to the organizer, same as it's always been, it's fill the boot for the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. It's done.
Motion to approve communication 159, Greek Food Festival.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councilor Devlin.
Yes, 2-0 out of committee, spoke to the organizer, same as last year, and then it's essentially the same as it's been for 20 plus years. The only difference last year and this year, they have a band, they shut down the street for a little while, they notify all the abutters, they talked to everybody ahead of time, there were no complaints last year.
And the lamb shanks are to die for.
It is.
Further discussion, Councilor Zede.
Just for the record, we are requiring by written contract that we be named insured.
Thank you, good point. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very well. Anything else in committee, Councilor?
Yeah, motion to approve, oh, no, actually, that's not true. It's already out, so ordinance number 31 for discussion. It did not come out with an approval or a recommendation from the committee. We had two hearings on this on May 15th and June 13th. For reasons that I may discuss later, I just couldn't recommend it for approval, but I did not want to have it not come out recommended with a negative recommendation, because I feel that would do a disservice to the sponsors, but also Walt Thompson put a lot of effort into this, made a compelling argument. I just will summarize briefly the first two, and then I'll let probably the sponsors speak. The first hearing, probably 12 people were here, including one of the sponsors, Councilor Earls. People gave testimony on some anecdotal testimony other than Walt, but Pam Kipp was talking about her dog had walked across a yard that had just been treated and went into seizure right afterwards on the sidewalk. I did not follow up with how the dog was, but I think it eventually recovered. Judy Moradian has discussed that alternatives work. It's bad for pets, bees, and children, and Europe has banned it, and she handed me a Globe, she submitted a Globe article on one of the recent cases that the jury found a large award for, a damages award for the plaintiffs. Janetta Isabella has said she never used it, and she's always had beautiful lawns. She described some quite horrifying, that the fact that wheat is bathed in this stuff, when it's cultivated and grown. And she was worried that it was causing autism, that it wasn't vaccines that were doing it, but something was doing it. Andrea Nakanis on Allen Street, she submitted Walt Thompson's letter to the editor at the Daily News. She suggested that we should have a list at City Hall of alternative methods, which was generally met with agreement to the crowd. Dan Iyink, Dr. Dan Iyink, we talked about the health effects, and he was concerned about the health effects. Julie Menon appeared. She started off saying that it was very hard to be, she wasn't a big supporter of a multi-billion-dollar chemical company and or chemicals, but she did present some interesting information on Japanese knotweed, which is taking over, or it's an invasive species on the rail trail. And she said there was two ways of killing it: using glyphosates or cutting it down, mulching over dark plastic, and then more mulch, and keeping it, away from the light for 1 to 5 years. Then Walt also presented information on the genesis of this, if I can paraphrase, is the International Agency for Research on Cancer. It is a part of the World Health Organization. It listed it as a carcinogen in the category of 2A, which is a probable carcinogen. And I'll let the proponents speak some more if they want.
Point of order, do we have a motion?
It's already out.
It's already out.
It's not.
Oh, motion.
You need a motion to remove.
Motion to approve.
It's been removed.
No,
You need a motion to approve or not approve, you need something.
Go ahead. Motion to approve.
Was there a motion to approve? That, Richard?
Thank you. I just made a motion to approve.
That's it.
There's no.
I wasn't sure what the, yeah, right.
It ran by me, thank you. I'm going to complicate matters by asking Councilor
Well, he's a sponsor.
Earls
as
to
well.
take my seat so that I can address this matter.
If the sponsor wants to speak, he can.
Somebody else.
You're correct.
Yeah, somebody else.
I'll keep my mouth shut then for a while.
Just ask somebody else.
Oh.
Councilor Z, you don't speak?
Councilor O'Brien?
Be a pleasure. Meeting adjourned.
I really miss you.
Councilor Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I want to offer some caution, and based on historic perspective. When you ban one particular pesticide, now pesticides could be fungicides, herbicides, insecticides, one of those chemicals, the moment you turn around, there's something else in the wings that's going to replace it. A minor change chemically that does largely the same thing. So again, glyphosate is the poster child that's presently before us, but there is a line of these waiting in the wings to replace it if and when enough communities like Newburyport or enough states or enough nations ban its use. And so I think we're to some degree missing the point. When we had DDT, it was replaced when it was found to be softening the eggs on the shells of bald eagles. Great poster child for the environmental community. It was replaced with something else. What replaced it? Chlordane. When chlordane was found to be carcinogenic, malathion. When malathion left, lindane, and so on, right down the list. There's always something waiting in the wings. So our approach is, I think, backwards. Rather than identifying individual pesticides, there is a way to control pests. And it's called integrated pest management. The State Department of Food and Agriculture has an integrated pest management council that makes recommendations for the appropriate use, not the indiscriminate use, of pesticides that are timed to the life cycle of the pest, limited in their scope and application to the application by people who are qualified to do so, and only in the amount that is absolutely necessary to suppress the life cycle of the pest, whether it's a weed, whether it's a fungus, whether it's an insect. IPM methods work. My recommendation would be, although I will vote in favor of this, is that we sponsor and support something to address this more holistically, and that is ordering all management of public properties, we're not talking about your lawn or your neighbor's garden, but public properties be done according to the principles of integrated pest management. There are standard protocols for the management of different kinds of properties and the likely pests, insects, weeds, fungi, that need control, that do not require, except in extreme circumstances, the application of petrochemical-derived pesticides. So let's not fool ourselves and think that we're eliminating this problem, because we're not. We're perhaps banning the application of glyphosate, which is the item that's getting so much press presently. But there is something else around the corner. And we are much better off adopting a policy and training our personnel to manage our properties with integrated pest management techniques. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Councilor Z.
Thank you. I will not be supporting this tonight, and I just wanted to give a couple of reasons why, so I don't just vote no silently. First of all, I promised myself when I got elected I'd be driven by science, and science is an interesting thing. So science requires qualification, and respectfully to the sponsors, I don't think that this is a body that understands enough about this to be in the business of banning it. And I think there's a big difference between science and the law. So you may have legal cases where individual episodes are looked at under a microscope with a specific person, specific persons doing a specific thing with a product. That's different than science, which is looking at the global perspective of how something works. So when a body puts something in the same category as red meat, you have to wonder if it's a reliable thing to look at. And I'm not passing judgment one way or the other. I actually don't know the answer, and quite honestly, I'm not qualified to pass judgment. What I do know is we're talking about something that's been legal since the mid-'70s under all manner of administration, and I look at life more as risk assessment, not risk elimination. So you may get rid of this, you may get something that's worse. Respectfully to some of those, I have a lawn, I've done a lot of research, I have 2 young kids. I wouldn't pour a ton of vinegar on my lawn, and I have my reasons why, and that's my choice. And certainly I wouldn't support the city applying vinegar in commercial grade applications, commercial levels or scale. We talk about blowing out that much vinegar into the environment. It's not necessarily a good thing either. A couple other thoughts just to wrap up. One is I just had the rail trail go through my ward, and invasives were and are a big problem for the rail trail. It's not clear to me how that problem will be handled, and actually brings me to another point which is interesting. I'll be interested to see the mayor's reaction. Sounds like this has her support, but if we can pass this, then I think it opens another avenue of powers the council has to direct departments to use certain products, do certain things in certain ways. I certainly have opinions about that. I'd be happy to put them in ordinance format if that's what it takes. So it just cannot listen to anecdotes from one person's experience walking down and ignore bodies of research, including from the international community. So I'm nascent. I voted present when this came in because I felt like we just weren't the body to do it, and I still feel that way. But I'm compelled to vote no in this case just because I don't think we've reached the bar that would of research or knowledge or capacity. And I do worry about the implications of this. And the last thing I'll say before I sit down is just that I've talked to some department heads, and I think as a city, we're using chemicals as little as we can, which is good. That's the idea. I mean, I didn't hear from anybody that, frankly, it's Parks or DPS that would be most likely, or maybe a state contractor coming in on some. I didn't hear that we had any other policy but to use as little as possible to get by. So it's unclear to me how this would be a sensible thing to pass, or that we should pass it tonight.
I do believe there's a preponderance of information about this particular chemical. And I guess the impetus came from the parks, where they decided maybe that would be a smart way to go. I spoke to DPS and subsequently schools, and they said that there's alternatives. We can work without this. So just the single undisputed information that it inhibits honeybees in particular digestive system. Nobody argues that. Mm-hmm. That is a known fact. Isn't that enough when there's alternatives? The fact that one of our employees, and I'm not going to point out because I don't want to make it like they're a bad person, publicly said they use this on the city, but they would never use it at their house. That was kind of telling to me too. That's an individual I respect and who knows quite a bit about. Again, I don't want to pinpoint who is very knowledgeable. And that was sort of very interesting in itself. It's almost kind of like, why not? what does it harm not? It was said that, okay, they're going to replace with other things. Then let them replace with other things. I don't think Monsanto is going to miss us. They're not going to go, oh, boy, we better shift and we better get another chemical out there because Newburyport banned it. Holy crap, you know, we're going to lose our shirt here. Stakeholders are going to go crazy. No one's going to do that. This is just for our community. This is for our children. It's for our honeybees. I know it sounds silly. Maybe it's for our pets. It's a small little step, and it's really of very little cost.
Yeah, actually, I have a question of either the chair or of Matt. Was the Board of Health asked to make a ruling on this?
Testimony came in that they had gone to the Board of Health prior to this. That was one of my questions. And that the Board of Health, and that was submitted a resolution making April chemical-free month, or that was the Board of Health's. My question had been a little bit along the lines of Councilor Zede. I have a Juris Doctorate, but does not make me a doctor. I think I said I was probably one of the least qualified people to make a decision on this in the city of Newburyport. But I had asked, why didn't the Board of Health? I think the Board of Health has the power to regulate this, and they have certainly more qualified people than myself and Councilor Junta, not to diminish us, but who were there, those two hearings, to pass on this. But what they did was a resolution declaring, I think, April a herbicide-free month and recognizing the detriments of chemical use.
Yeah, I would just, no, it hasn't been mentioned before. I think what the reason glyphosate has been in the news is because there have been a number of very high-profile lawsuits decided against Bayer, now the owner of Monsanto, and I think, you know, aside, whereas we do not have expertise in the science, we need to take the city's financial and fiscal position into account, and I am concerned with city employees using a chemical where there have been significant lawsuits decided. Now, the city's not as, I mean, the real target are the deep pockets at Bayer, but nevertheless, I would be concerned. So therefore, I'm going to vote in favor of banning city use of glyphosates.
Councilor Dublin. So I didn't want to lead off with you know, my position. Just Councilor Junta, who's not here, I think I should speak to him. Some of his questions were more focused on the fines. I think there's a $300 fine in there. And there was testimony that, you know, where that would, Councilor Junta's first question was, you know, are you going to fine the city? You know, and the city's going to fine itself. But what the answer was if you're maintaining your sidewalk, which we encourage during the winter at least, and you're spraying it on your bricks, that you could be subject to a $300 fine. And then that definitely did not, Councilor Junta in our second meeting was you know, wondering if at least the resident, you know, participant sponsor was interested in amending that in any way. There was not, we didn't have any of the sponsoring councilors there. Here's my problem with this, and I alluded to it, and I think Councilor Zede was referencing it. This is injudicious legislation on our part. We are not qualified to do this at all. You know, and I will fully say that I am not qualified to judge on this. We're not the appropriate body for this. I couldn't convene, you know, a panel of experts to review, you know, in some of the online research, which I promised myself I wouldn't do, but I did end up doing. There are thousands of research that for instance, the European governing body, which did, contrary to some resident comment, did not ban this. It is allowed in Europe, in the European Union.
France
right.
banned it.
Right. I'm just saying, so there's thousands of studies that were examined. Now, would it blow any of us away that a billion-dollar chemical company was, unfairly, affecting those? Yes, but our EPA, our USDA, Obama era, EPA and USDA scientists called the glyphosates, and again, I don't want to be a big defender of some giant chemical. It made me creeped out that wheat was being bathed in it, but they called it the 1 in 100 year chemical. It is what penicillin is to disease prevention. This is into agricultural production. So again, though, I'll go back to the process. If we don't have a standard of things that we pass, this is a slippery slope. Cigarettes, alcohol, every other chemical that comes in behind it. I actually sort of liked Councillor Connell's suggestion of maybe a framework and say, look, we recommend that you use these, best practices. I did speak to DPS. I think it was Councillor Earls that confirmed that the schools and the parks are not using it. DPS is no longer using it. Councillor Earls did say, look, I want to prevent any other administration from changing their mind and using it. But for me, a ban is just, we're not the right body. Again, what's next? Cigarettes, alcohol. So my other concern when this happens, from a legal perspective, now I do have a law degree. These cases are based on the preponderance of the evidence. That's a civil lawsuit versus a criminal lawsuit is beyond a reasonable doubt. Preponderance of evidence can be described as 50.000000001% more likely to have caused that or had participated in causing that than not. And so it's not a high standard. So my concern is this: when California wanted to put a warning label on bear, they sued them. And California has the money to do the research and defend itself. Well, we don't. And all they wanted to do was put a warning label on it. We want to ban a legal product. And my concern is we have some, there is a preemption statute for, it's the Frank R. Lautenberg Chemical Safety in the 21st Amendment statute. And it basically says, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but I can read, and it says if the EPA and FDA have taken a position on it, states can't take an alternative position. So I'd be concerned that we'd be opening ourselves up to liability for that. We're banning a product that's legal. Bayer Monsanto has a lot more money than we do. So again, I don't want to belabor this, but this is one of the reasons I ran. Again, we need to stay in our lane, and our resources are scarce, and I think we need to be judicious on what we pass.
Councilor Vogel? Thank you. I rise in favor and support of this, though I do have a couple of questions and would like to just clarify a couple of things that were just mentioned. I did have a question about the penalties and who is being penalized and who will pay who. But it does say simply in the regulation that for this reason, the application either by the City of Newburyport employees or by private contractors is prohibited on all parks, commission lands, and the City of Newburyport lands. So again, we've already brought it forward that it's not on private land, and it is by private contractors and by city employees. So those are the people that cannot use it. But there are exceptions, so they can ask for waivers. So I just wanted to clarify but it does seem odd that if there were a violation, are we finding ourselves? So that would be nice to get that a little bit cleared up. Maybe tonight's not the night, maybe we put this back into committee. But, so that needs to be cleared up, I think. But other than that, I like the general concept of it. I hear all those arguments. I am not a lawyer. I'm not sure that where I would ever go with that. But in any event, I stand in favor simply based on the concept of it. It's time to start taking control of some of these things. But I'd like to see perhaps that language cleared up somewhat as to who we're going to find and how we're going to find a city employee if they misuse it. That's all I have.
Yeah, this is a tough one, but I'm going to vote in favor of it. Let me explain. I mean, like Councilor at Large and the chair, I was concerned about preemption, but this ordinance, and I raised that with Walt Thompson, and I think if we were to ban private use of Roundup, I think we probably would be sued by Bayer because the precedent would really worry them. What's not preempted, though, is our proprietary rights. So we're allowed to manage our own property. The analogy I would make is fluoride. So when I first came on the council, there were a lot of people who had sort of, same concerns, saying, well, that we can argue back and forth about fluoride, but the safe thing to do is not to put it in our water, and you have the power, City Council, to tell them, our water department. Now, I oppose that ban because, I felt that I had the authority. No, I'm not a chemist, but I had the authority as a city councilor to decide on balance, maybe not preponderance of the evidence, but on balance, it's better for kids to have fluoride in their water. I mean, I myself was a beneficiary of it my whole life here in Newburyport and in Cambridge and elsewhere. I don't have any cavities. So my only loss here of Roundup is, what am I giving up, is the pepperweed, or whatever it's called, eradication. And I know Julie Menon, she's in my ward, and she raised the concern with me, and I really don't know if we're going to have the manpower, person power to eradicate that without it. So I don't know that this is going to work. But I do think we have the legal authority to do it. I'm a little troubled, or I guess disappointed, that the health board hasn't taken a clear position. That would have been helpful. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't see a problem with our as the city council saying, look, on public property, we don't want to be using this chemical out of caution, that the benefits really don't outweigh the possible harm. I wasn't really worried about the liability of workers suing us later until Councilor Large raised up the preponderance of evidence standards, which really worries me. So a DPS worker, could come after us later, and that would be, if we harmed him through this, we could. But I'm not trying to do scare tactics. I'm just saying, on balance, I don't think the loss of glyphosate is, a problem. I think it's worth trying to do without it. Integrated pest management is a great idea, but that's probably a pretty complicated ordinance, and it's not before us. I'm going to go vote in favor.
So I just have two comments. One is I think the at-large counselor's question about finding yourself is a great way to identify something that's probably operations. So that's why I'm so keenly interested to see the administration's acceptance of this, because I view it as an expansion of the city council's powers, which I welcome while I don't agree with this. So you pass an ordinance that says the police department must do this, the fire department must do that, or not do that, and if they don't do it, then you can find yourself. And to the Ward 2 councilors' comments respectfully, if our goal now is to take over the role of OSHA and EPA, and we should begin weeding out all potential issues from all employees, which just, I think, highlights the point that this is an illogical step for the Newburyport City Council to take. So I just couldn't help myself, but I had to respond to those two comments.
And now, we'll have the motion for us. Could you read it?
Motion on the floor is to approve.
Move the question.
Roll call vote.
Roll call on the motion to approve ordinance number 31. I'm going to start with you, Councilor
Yes, start
O'Brien.
with me. Vote no.
No?
No.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
No.
Councilor Devlin.
No.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Counselor Eigenman.
Yes.
Counselor Connell.
Yes.
6, needing 6, motion passes first reading.
Nothing further from public safety.
Exactly. Exactly.
The first suit was
One moment, Counselor.
Sorry.
There is nothing further from public safety? Is that what I just heard?
Correct.
Yes, nothing further from public safety.
Counselor Eigenman, was there a point of order, point of personal privilege? What do you want to call it?
Order. I just wanted to suggest that we take the 2 executive sessions in opposite order so that Councilor Devlin can participate in the first one, and he's recused in the second.
Very well.
Oh, no.
Oh, I was not staying. I was going to skip both of them, so.
Or rules.
I vote no on that one.
Thank you, good point. We're going to clear the chambers for 2 consecutive executive sessions having to do with potential litigation. One moment, Counselor. For the public consumption, we're going to have to do a couple of things. We want to announce that we will not be returning into public session tonight, so that when our executive sessions are complete, we'll be done for the evening, we will adjourn. So thank you for coming and being so patient. It's going to take a couple of minutes. I agree with Councilor Eigenman, and I think it is within the jurisdiction of the chair to reverse the order of the presentations to accommodate one of the councilors. Councilor Devlin.
Just for the record, I am going to recuse myself on any discussion of the 193 High Street. I am a butter within 300 feet, so I have an interest in this, and so I'll be leaving at that point.
Thank you. So our executive session, the order will be number 18, the executive session regarding potential litigation regarding the NRA will be the first item of business. Then the second executive session will be a matter having to do with a zoning appeal on 193 High Street from which Councilor Devlin will be recused.
Motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Motion, and will be a roll call vote. Before we vote, I'd like discussion. I believe Councilor Zede has something to
I just have
say.
one question. I don't know, is the city solicitor here?
Yes.
Could you join us? I just have a question about going into executive session on a specific, on one of the 2 items. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Bring him in first.
Which item?
193.
I don't want to, I'm going to recuse myself. I don't want to be a part of that discussion.
Okay. And we're not in executive session yet, so you might as well leave your microphones on.
And actually, Mr. Chair, or not Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Madam Chair. I'm not even sure I can participate in a motion and vote to go into this executive session. If you could bifurcate it for me, I can go into the first one and vote on that, and I'll recuse myself on the second one.
Mr. President, I'm assuming we're going to take an executive session, a vote, roll call vote, to go into executive session on
Each item
the
separately.
matter of litigation with respect to the NRA and the conveyance of tied lands to the Waterfront Trust, period.
So moved. That's my motion.
Yes. And you can participate in that, can you not?
Yes.
Yes.
Then, all right, yeah.
Let's get it out.
Okay, we're going to take them separately.
We're going to vote on that right now?
Yeah, I voted no.
You want to do that, Mr. President?
Yes, I would.
So again, that's a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation with respect to the NRA and the conveyance of tied lands to the Waterfront Trust. This roll call would be starting with Councilor O'Brien.
No.
Not going in. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earl.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
We would be in executive session on the NRA matter only at this point. And may I suggest that we turn our mics off?
Yeah, let's mute them.
Well, we're going to do that now? All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back out and vote on a second.
Mr. President, if I might, I mean, we could ask the city solicitor, but I'm assuming we're going to take a roll call vote to come out of that, take a roll call vote to go into the second executive session.
Okay, fine. I misunderstood. I'm sorry. I thought we were doing it together. Sure. I'm all set. I'll hold my comments until the second vote. Thank you.
So we're going to get our NRA exec first, so let's...
We are on.
You have to read item 17. Item 17.
Councilors, we're going
You can't accuse yourself, it calls the item.
First, I think we better check our microphones.
We are about to go into executive session.
Don't we have to come out?
We already out.
Nope.
We voted ourselves out of previous executive session, and I believe that was legally recorded by the clerk. Now we're going back into a different executive session for the purpose, Mr. Clerk?
Of discussing litigation with respect to 193 High Street zoning appeal. Just for the record, we finished our executive session discussing litigation with respect to the NRA and the conveyances related to Tidelands, and it is now
10:51.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be recusing myself, and I'm not coming back, so I'm going home, and good luck in the good of the order.
9 minutes. So we're doing it.
Councilor Devlin is recusing himself. Let the record display that.
Motion to waive the rules to allow us to proceed past 11 o'clock.
Second.
And it was seconded by Councilor Z. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor of waiving the rules so we can proceed past 11 o'clock tonight?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Talk faster.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Second. We will have a roll call vote on the matter of going for discussion. Councilor Z.
One question. Before we go into executive session, is this matter still open and pending? That's my question.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can you identify yourself for the record?
We need to go into KP Law.
Excuse me. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Attorney Tom Lane from KP Law.
Thank you, Tom. I'm sorry, Councilor Vogel.
No, we need to go into executive session.
Yes, we do.
If I might make a suggestion, we're going in for a specific purpose, or executive session to discuss the litigation with respect to 193 High Street zoning appeal, correct, Counselor?
Yes.
And is that the motion?
Indeed it is.
Second follows that, yes, that matters precisely.
And we'll have a roll call matter, a roll call on this vote.
Then I will take a roll call vote to go in. Counselor O'Brien?
No.
Counselor Shan?
Yes.
Counselor Tontar?
Yes.
Counselor Vogel?
Yes.
Counselor Zede? Counselor Devlin is recused.
Yes.
Counselor Earls?
Yes.
Counselor Agaman?
Yes.
Counselor Connell?
Yes.
We're in executive session. It is 10:15.
53. Now we'll mute our devices.